All right, everybody, what is going on? Good afternoon. You know what time it is. You know what it's all about. We've got some more draft evaluations to get to, and this position I think is going to be a little bit polarizing with Seahawks fans because it doesn't feel like we have a huge need here, and depending on what happens with a particular free agent, we might have really no need here, but for the moment, we do have, in my mind, something of a concern at the wide receiver position. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that. And if we do re-sign Shaheed in a week or whatever, then we're good. I don't think we really need much of anything at receiver except maybe special teamers. But remember, we're probably keeping Jake Bobo as well. Derek Young could be kept. So there might really be no need. So if that's the case, then that's the case. But let's talk about some wide receivers while we can. And look, these first several guys we're going to talk about, they're certainly not going to be Seahawks. There's no way, no how. But I still think it's important to talk about them so we know what we're dealing with. And this video is going to deal with I'd call them early first round guys. These are guys that are probably going to go in the early first round. And we're starting with wide receiver one, Carnell Tate of Ohio State, another Ohio State receiver stud, 21 years old. He's got good size. 6'2", is taller than the typical receiver. He is lean, though. He is very lean, 192 pounds. Arms are a decent length, and honestly, they stand out compared to a lot of these guys. Huge hands. Did not test terribly well, although he only did his 40, and he's not fast, and we kind of knew that. 4.53, 161. It's not his claim to fame. In fact, other than the fact that he's more obviously, I think, an outside receiver, you might compare him to a previous Ohio State receiver that we are pretty familiar with. So, big boards, three have him in the top 10. The others have him in the mid first range. The aggregate, however, has him seventh. So, when you bring in the smaller big boards, they tend to really boost him up. Not huge production at Ohio State these last couple years for assorted reasons. He never really had that big breakout year, but over 50 catches each of the last 2 years, over 1,500 yards, 16, close to 1,600, actually over 1,600, excuse me. Good yard per reception average and 88.6 PFF in 2025. So he is kind of the next man up in that Ohio State conveyor belt. And we know what that Ohio State conveyor belt can do at wide receiver. They produce elite route runners. That is the main reason why these guys are appealing. They run great routes, and Carnell Tate, no exception. He's also very good at extending for catches that are off target. He uses his size and his length to go for balls that are off his body. He's got that big catch radius. Movement skills are smooth and fluid. His route running, it does really feel like he's just kind of skating out there, kind of like JSN, kind of like a lot of these other really good Ohio State route runners. He can track the ball downfield very well. He is a big play threat because of his ability to find the ball in the air and pluck it. So you get him deep down the field one-on-one, and he will find a way to run underneath a deep ball. He's really good at reading zone coverage and finding the opening in zone. He sits down and waits for the quarterback to find him. So he's somebody that has a good football IQ at the receiver spot. He reliably beats press coverage. He knows how to use his strength and his arm length to beat press. And he's got great ball skills at the point of the catch. That might be his best skill, actually. When the ball is in the air and there's a defender around him, he does whatever it takes to make sure the ball is his. Now, look, for a guy who's probably going to be a top 10 pick, and I understand why he's a top 10 pick, I'm not saying this is a deal breaker, especially in this draft, but he's not a great athlete. He doesn't have great speed. 4.53, 161 is not really going to impress anybody. And you see it on the field. He doesn't have the top end speed to really separate from defensive backs through raw burning ability. He's got a slight build, so you are going to be a little bit concerned about injuries with him. And overall, he's not a great athlete. He's just kind of, for a guy who's going to be a top 10 receiver, I don't want to say it's like Marvin Harrison Jr., but in a way it will make you think of that. Because Marvin Harrison Jr., his main claim to fame was his route running and body control. Tate kind of feels like that, but I feel like Marvin Harrison was a better athlete than Tate. and you're not getting tremendous collegiate production either. He never had a 900-yard season at Ohio State, and there are valid reasons why that is, but, I mean, JSN had that one crazy good season before we drafted him in the first, just saying. So, look, the Ohio State wideout conveyor belt is not to be questioned anymore. He's got great skills, his route running, his ball skills, his ability to go outside his catch radius, his ball tracking. These are things that are going to make him good in the NFL, but where is the upper level speed or acceleration or explosiveness? I don't know how much I see it. I don't see a guy who's going to be one of the best receivers in football at any point. And I know that maybe I would have said the same thing about JSN when we drafted him. I saw a guy who was going to be a really good slot receiver, but I don't know. I got to go with the read here. So, yeah, he's worthy of a top 10 pick, but I don't necessarily feel tremendous about it. And yeah, I mean, he's going to go in the top 10, I think, and he should in this class for sure, but it does kind of make me feel like it's emblematic of this draft class. Carnell Tate, I don't think he's as good a prospect as Marvin Harrison was. He's probably a better prospect than JSN just because he's got longer arms. And look, the JSN thing worked out beautifully. That doesn't mean every receiver who comes out of Ohio State will. Certainly. I mean, we've seen some guys come out of Ohio State, and I mean, it's been more mixed. Like Chris Olave is good, but is he ever going to have another 1,000-yard season at this point? I don't know. All right, the other current early round one guy is Jordyn Tyson, Arizona State. 22 when this season starts. He's got good size as well, 6'2", 203 pounds, so a little bit heavier, which is good. But the arms are very short, and that's going to really stick out like a sore thumb here. He's got 10th percentile arms. He's not the only guy in this class with that problem, but it is a problem. The only thing he did at the combine was the bench press, and he killed it. 26 bench press reps, 98th percentile for a receiver, but he's got the really short arms, so it's a lot easier for him. So, curb your enthusiasm a little bit, but that is kind of his thing. There's a reason why he only did the bench press at the combine. And you can see the big boards. 4 of them have him in the top 10. The other 2 have him in the, we got 15 from Tank and 20 from PFF. Aggregate, last I checked, had him at 11th. So, didn't produce as much as you would have liked in 2025 because of injury. Had 700 yards, 61 catches. A little bit of a disappointment for him. Only not even 12 yards per catch. 82.9 PFF grade, though. Year before that, he definitely had more production. 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, over 14 and a half yards per catch. So we did see the heavy volume from Tyson. I'm not worried about that part of it. To me, the worry about Tyson is what is his use case in the NFL? Because in college, he was an inside and outside receiver, and he was productive from both alignments. In fact, that was the main thing about him in college that was so appealing. Versatility. He could line up at X, at Y, at Z. He could line up at the slot, and he could produce. He's very strong. He's really hard to deny at the catch point. He's another guy who's really good at the catch point. Every ball in the air is his. He runs good routes, and he also runs smart routes. He knows how to deceive. He knows how to throttle. He knows how to vary his pacing to kind of lull a defender to sleep and ultimately deceive them. He's also a great run blocker. He uses his size and strength really well when he's run blocking. So that's going to be something that's really important to some teams out there. He's also got speed, and he's more of a downfield threat than people might assume. So there is a little bit more to his game than you might assume from looking at him. You kind of look at him and you see a bigger guy who's strong and probably going to play in the slot in the NFL. But there's a little bit more of a downfield threat here than you might assume. And he's also a very good yak threat. He's somebody who can get the ball and make things happen after the catch. The question is, what about those arms? 30 and a quarter is definitely slot territory. That's going to be tough to overcome. More physical defenders can give him trouble, which is part of the reason why you do want to probably put him in the slot so he doesn't have to deal with as much physical play in the NFL, and he gets to go up against guys that are a lot smaller than him. He's been injured quite a bit. I think he had injuries in 2022, 2023, and 2025. So there is a lot of red in that ledger. And while he's more of a downfield threat than you might assume looking at him, he's still not that fast compared to other top receivers. Like, he's not fast. Maybe he's a little bit fast for his size and strength, but he's not going to burn past cornerbacks with raw speed. And he did have 7 drops in 2024, which was his high volume year. So he only had 1 in 2025, so big improvement. But there is a little bit of a concern about focus with him, I think. So overall, this would probably be my top receiver in this draft, if not for all the injuries. I can't put him at wide receiver 1 because he can't stay healthy, but I think he'll be very good in the NFL as long as he can find a way to stay healthy. He may only be good from the slot, but or at the very least, he may play most of his reps in the slot like an Amon-Ra St. Brown does, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the better receivers in football, so it's not a terrible thing to be a slot receiver. So, mid first rounder, I'm a little tentative about it because of the injuries. I'm scared. I feel like he's going to have a little bit of a hard time staying upright, which is ironic, right? Because he's the guy with a little bit more meat on his bones compared to Carnell, but seems like he's the guy who really struggles to stay healthy, but mid first round's fine with me. All right, so that's going to do it for this first video. Those are your early first round guys. More receivers coming later unless something big happens. Let me know what you guys think of this crew. I know that these are guys that we can't touch because they're too high, but let me know what you think of these receivers anyway. We may have to find one as it turns out. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.